myself and gain my true looks. I don't want nobody to give me nothing.
That's what James Brown said about it. Welcome to the August 22nd edition of Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play. We diverting somewhat, but not really, because the show is always going to be about models of possibility and best practices. But we got open phone lines today. The number is 323-293-3375. That's 323-293-3375 from MorrisMediaLive.com. Today, some of the things I would like to engage the audience with on are the following subject matters. Race. What is the deal here? We're dealing with the Confederate flag, Confederate symbols, Nazism, white nationalism. How do you feel about any of these interrelated issues? We're going to talk a little bit about health and wellness. Are you concerned about the repeal of Obamacare? Why is there no outcry about the dangers of the pharmaceutical drug companies dominating your options when it comes to health and wellness? Also, we're going to deal with the economy and gentrification. Some of us believe that urban renewal is Negro removal. What's happening in your part of the country as it relates to all of the development that's happening in inner cities all over the United States? Is your community changing for the better or the worse? Politically, who are the leaders politically in your community? What is the black agenda? Do we have one? Those are the subject matters for today. And once again, the call-in number is 323-293-3375. We're going to start the show off today with someone who has already called in from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Real quickly, I met him at one of the premier boxing champion fights, about a year and a half ago. His son, Shango, was on the card, an exciting young welterweight fighter. And as I got to know him, he shared some things with me and I with him, and I learned a lot about his organization, which is called the Circle of Discipline. Please welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, Sankara Fraser. How you doing, my brother?
All right, my brother. Thank you for having me call in, man. I like what you're saying about James Brown. Open the door and we'll get it ourselves. Ain't that right?
Man, that's all we knew. And the thing that's so interesting about that song and that era, the music spoke directly to what we were responsible for doing. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just get on out of the way. So how does that song inspire you to do the work that you do within the construct of the Circle of Discipline in Minneapolis, Minnesota?
Well, I've always been kind of that type of minded person anyway. But, you know, that type of music is just going to give you that much more inspiration because you know that other people are thinking like you. They are like-minded people, despite what sometimes we may think. And, you know, when you hear it, it just makes you want to get up and get it on, you know. And what I did was a number of things to get to the place where I finally organized a Circle of Discipline. And it was, you know, it was challenging. And you go through this and you go through that until you can find that right formula. And the formula was the Circle of Discipline. And that's 360 degrees of mind, body, and spirit. And that's pretty deep. If there's anything deeper than that, you can tell me about it. But the discipline part comes in where you want to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve, and you know you need desire first and discipline second in order to make that happen. And that's what we really push down there.
You know, we was talking earlier today, there's issues within the so-called race that we are associated with. And you were sharing with me something that you had to take just immediate initiative on as it relates to some of the people who are now a part of the American fabric who look like us but are from different parts of the world. More specifically, you was talking about the influx of the Somalian population and how that created some tension and some challenges in terms of who was on first, who was on second, who was on third. Could you kind of illuminate on how that plays into the race question within the race?
Yeah, well, you know, from what we've learned through years, Uncle Bobby, is always divide and conquer. A lot of the people that are coming here don't really understand the historical perspective from, where we had to fight from all of these years and how we died and hung and burned and everything else in order that we can get a few things that we can get. And they did drop a load in here on us people right into the community, like they did, years ago with the Asian people that came in from the Hmongs and Laotians and everything. Get tax breaks, you get all of these. And I've heard a lot of this stuff directly from where it was coming from. We don't mind helping, but we have to help ourselves first. And what we were doing is all these years that we've been here in this country was paying taxes in, the whole family paying taxes in, and we're still struggling to get to a place where we can help our people on a much larger, much grander scale that we know we can do. But our monies are going to all of these other places. And I think it's somewhat by design, actually, because, again, when you keep us divided, we can't get together on nothing. And there's where the race thing is played in. It's not that I don't like you or I hate you or I don't like your religion or anything else like that. It's that I see how it's being played and I call them out on it directly. And that's what we were talking about, is real men don't play. If you got to say something, if you got to do something, then go and get it done in order to make that change.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Circle of Discipline and the focal point of the organization, the origins of it, and some of the positive outcomes since you started the Circle of Discipline.
Well, the Circle has had so many stories over the years. It's like 25 years now of people that have came in and changed their lives. We have, I hate to just be on the whole gang thing all the time, because there's many other people that have problems that run deep just right there in their family, and they're looking for that whole family environment which we provide. The boxing is a tool, and it's a very powerful one. I'm not taking nothing away from that, but so is the other parts of the martial arts and the 360 circuit that we train for people that don't want to do that. Now, we use the space that we have to get as much in as we can, but we're in the school systems, and we have a whole program that we use in the school system, the Challenge and Achieve program, where they actually go and work with them on academics and truancy and those type of things. And we've had that going now for I believe it's been about a good 5-6 years, which is helping them, and they come to the Circle so that we can work with them there. We work directly with the families, and any type of problems that they have, we try and help them to solve those. Our real goal is health and wellness. The mental part of what's going on with us, we have to get involved in that. And so we did. And I've learned to utilize the resources that we have in order to help them get more focus on what it is that they're trying to achieve, whether it be academics or whatever the case may be, music, whatever. They become better and more focused at it.
A couple other questions real quickly here. The Castile murder in your city, what was your initial reaction to it, and where do things stand now from a community aspect, since there's been a settlement, right?
Well, yeah, I guess they had talked about, from what I've gotten, they talked about some type of a settlement on that. I'm not sure of the actual amount, but I don't know how you settle on somebody's death. You take whatever it is that you can get. But that's not anything that's new. That happened a number of times. And it was, of course, very shocking. As a matter of fact, one of the boxers, that was his cousin. And it hurt him. It hurt everybody. And for me to see what happened and have an idea of how things are supposed to be approached from the police line, we had policemen working right down in the circle, that was completely off. And it basically, they just killed the man, you know, and it was ugly. And it's going to stay ugly until they begin to vet these people better. And they keep talking about better training, better training. Well, you know, how about the mind part? How about the mental aspects? Who is it that you're putting on the force? You know, find that out first. Do some background, do some investigation on these people, and see what, you know, where it is, if they belong to groups or whatever the case may be. You don't need them on the force. We do need police. We do need law and order. We're not, you know, stupid. We understand that. But at the same time, it needs to be fair across the board.
Well, my final question for you, and again, I want you to be a frequent guest as we begin to evolve here at Uncle Bobby's Country Corner. I met you within the scope of the boxing arena, and at that time, Al Heyman and Sam Watson had made a historic breakthrough in the fight game with respect to being able to attract the resources necessary to launch premier boxing champions. To wit, you were in Los Angeles with your fighter Shango, who is also your son, and that started our relationship that has become very close in the last year or so. So kind of walk us back through how that occurred, that you guys became a part of Premier Boxing Champions, and the impact that had on the circle of discipline and the opportunity to fight on major stages that were controlled by people who look like you.
Okay. Just a little brief history about boxing here in Minnesota. We've always been, you know, kind of looked at as not being able to hold our own on a national or international level, even though we've had champions come from here. Personally, from our organization, we've had a lot of good boxers. And when it came time for us to start looking at contracts, I was approached by a lot of other people that are involved in the game. But I wanted somebody that was going to be looking out for the boxers, you know, which we know how that's been over all the history, where these guys wind up with nothing at the end. And so I waited, and I checked into Al, and I, you know, did my research, did my due diligence on him and Sam. And when I finally got the opportunity, and he took a look at what we have, and said, okay, and I said, okay, and I said, well, let's go. You know, and since then we've been steady climbing the ladder, and hopefully within the next, you know, year, we'll get an opportunity at a title shot, because he's definitely been fighting enough hard fights in order to prove that. And we have our own promotional company here, which is 360 PMG, where we have at least 10 more professionals coming up right behind him, and they're good. So we want to give a different look to Minnesota and the talent that is actually coming right out of our facility.
Well, Brother Sankara, I want to spread the phone line around today, and my one final question is, how does this fight look to you? Well, it's an exhibition, really, on Saturday night, but it's going to be a money-making situation. How do you see that fight coming out between McGregor and Money Mayweather?
Well, I got to go with, Mayweather, of course, just simply because he is a boxer and he knows what he's doing. And I'm happy for them that they're going to make that kind of money. Mm-hmm. You know, they promoted it very well. It's kind of I hate to use the word circus, but it's, you know, it's an entertaining.
It's an exposition. It is.
Come on, you know what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing it well and they're getting paid for it. but
Yeah.
you know, it's not like we get ready to watch Ali and Joe Frazier.
That's for sure. Yeah, yeah.
But I think people look for fun things to do, and that's what they're offering them. They're offering them fun and a little excitement and something to look forward to.
Right,
And
right.
so with that said, I'm happy for him, but I'm going to go with Mayweather and his ability to be strategic. You know, the other kid, he's strong, but boxing is not his thing.
Right,
You know,
right.
you can always get hit with anything in there.
Yeah.
But hopefully he goes in and does his job, and that's not going to happen.
Right,
That's
right.
boxing up.
Right. So Sankara, man, we're going to stay in touch, man. We got some unfinished business to take care of with respect
Absolutely.
to linking up in Minneapolis, man. And thank you, man, for being a friend. And I'm so glad to know that the circle is well and still a part of the fabric of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And thank you for stopping by Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Thank you, brother, and remember that we work hard to make it look easy.
Okay then, brother. Thank you, man. I'll be in touch, man.
Okay,
All right. The number to call in is 323-293-3375. Again, the subject matters are race, health and wellness, economy, gentrification, and politics. With respect to the racial issue, as you have to be aware of, as we sit here right now, America has become a tinderbox. It's always been one, but now things are bubbling to the surface, and there's a lot of different positions on how we should react to something that some of us never thought ended, and that is the racial component of the American experience. To wit, when the people in Charlottesville decided that they wanted to maintain the status quo with respect to Confederate symbols. As a person who grew up in the South, and the old South at that, I have a different opinion about that. I would prefer that they are allowed to keep their symbols right where we can see them, and the people who cherish them, we should deal with them accordingly with respect to the fact that if you want to continue to fight a war that you lost, then there should be consequences for that. Now, what those consequences are vary based upon what your persuasion is in terms of settling scores. But as a nation, I'm wondering, how do you feel about the Confederacy still being alive, even though, again, they lost the war, and in any other instance, the acts that they are participating in would be treasonous, punishable by death. But because white privilege is something that we still have to deal with, I'm just curious how other people feel about that. And then you add to it the component of people talking about Nazism in America and that they are somehow good people. How did we get to that point? And then this whole notion of white nationalism, is it countered by black nationalism? Do we continue to just go in these opposite directions till we rip this country completely apart? Give me a call at 323-293-3375. I'd love to hear what you got to say about that particular subject. If that doesn't move you, tell me how you feel about health and wellness. One of the things that has really gotten my attention over the last few weeks as the debate has raged on about repeal and replace Obamacare is the fact that in the scope of that conversation, it hasn't really been discussed. Do we have other alternatives beside, business as usual, so to speak? In other words, right now, if you have a policy, a health policy, it has certain limitations, and some of them are really limited. And the whole focus on is treating you after you done got sick. And the options tend to be just as dangerous as the sickness itself. And I see no room for health practitioners who do not use chemicals or pharmaceutical drugs. And I'm wondering, does the public really understand that you cannot poison yourself in the health? How many people out there that are listening to this show right now are on medication? And how many of you have been on medication for an indefinite period of time? And are you satisfied with the fact that you go through that cycle of feeling good one day, bad the next, and then based on that, your next doctor's appearance results in additional medication? So when it comes to health and wellness, are you satisfied with the options that you have? The number here is 323-293-3375. Another issue that I wanted to discuss today is the economy. The stock market is at an all-time high. Does that mean anything to you? The number is 323-293-3375. I look at the stock market rising and people on the outside getting excited about that. The one thing that I've noticed about the stock market is just like everything else. What goes up eventually comes down. Depends on where you are in the process of that. A lot of the money that's in play now in the stock market can be, I guess, attributed to the so-called 1%, the people who have enough money to make money while they sleep by investing in ideas and businesses that go from nothing to something overnight, and then they buy and sell based upon where they are in the marketplace, and that just, triggers another buy and sell circle. How long before this bubble bursts? Another question I'd like to ask is, what's the driving forces in the marketplace right now? Wages have been stagnant in this country for at least the last 30 years. You might want to ask yourself, how is it that certain people have accumulated so much wealth without actually doing any physical work? And you may have a job where you get a quarter raise here, a dollar raise here, or $2 raise there, and everything else went up threefold. And you're on this wheel where you're wondering, how did I get in a position where I'm working longer hours for the same pay? I'm contributing more to my pension as well as to my health care, which has exploded over the last 25 years. Yet there's the perception that America is doing better than it ever has done. And so it raises a number of questions about the economy. And then you couple that with the fact that if you're in a major city right now, you see economic development outside of government forces that is unprecedented in the last 25 years and maybe ever in the history of the United States. And I'm talking about the downtown areas in all of the major metropolitan areas around the United States. There's cranes. Every time you see a crane, you're looking at about $1 billion circulating through the process of going from the foundation of that building to the completion of that building. The maintenance of that building is another ongoing cash flow. And then you look at the people participating in that, and you very seldom see folks who look like black folks. Now, the brown people have moved into the trades, the skilled trades in particular, whether it's in the concrete, the electrical, the plumbing, and all of these types of things. And they're in a position now where they're making an above average living, and many times not even being American citizens. So, and then you add to that who's moving back into the inner cities around the United States. Here in Los Angeles, there's a lot of communities that are literally changing overnight. Where we are here in what some people call South L.A., in the Crenshaw corridor, it is just unbelievable, the transformation that's going on. Now, we do have a major rail project. There's a $2 billion project that's coming right down the heart of the Crenshaw corridor that connects downtown to the airport. And then by the time you get to the city that encompasses the airport, which is Inglewood, there's billions of dollars worth of construction going on there. And the question is, where's all this money coming from? And who ultimately benefits from the influx of cash that's being spent on urban renewal, which in some instances means Negro removal? I'll give you an example. A friend of mine lives in this part of L.A., which we refer to as the Crenshaw corridor. His neighbors put their home on the market for $690,000. Now, they bought that home about 5 years ago for about $340,000. They listed it for $690,000. They took an offer from two females. Total cash, $740,000, 15-day escrow. That's not uncommon in the Crenshaw corridor right now. And the higher you go up in what is known as the Baldwin Hills community, which at one point, and probably still is, was the most affluent black neighborhood in the United States, for a long time, the threshold or the ceiling was $1 million for those homes. Now those homes are going for $1.5 million, $1.7 million, and they're cash offers. It's a lot of foreign money. There's a lot of baby boomer money flowing into this community, and it's getting to a point where within the next year, there will be a tremendous demographic shift in terms of the core population here. And my answer, or my question is, politically, how did all of this happen to the extent where no one came out and said, hey, y'all, it's coming? Now, I know for a fact that people over the years have been speaking quietly about the fact that some things were getting ready to happen here in the Crenshaw community, but it wasn't just the Crenshaw community. It's happening nationwide. And so that leads me to the question of what are we doing with respect to leadership? And who do we look to for leadership? The number is 323-293-3375. So what I'm going to do right now is take a short pause for the calls, and we'll come right back and deal more extensively with some of these questions about what's really going on in America as we know it to be 2017. We'll be right back. All right, we're black. That was Bob Marley. Get up, stand up for your rights. There's a brother who has just called in who epitomizes the essence of that song. Get up stand up for your rights. I first met Drexel Johnson back in 1992, right after the riots. I was living in San Diego at the time, and he was freedom fighting within the construct of the construction community here in Los Angeles. I literally met him the day after the riots. Drexel. Huh? He hadn't called in yet? I thought he was on the line there. But anyway, the gentleman that I had anticipated that was going to be on the line, I met him after the riots in 1992, and I had been doing some consulting work for the Black Contractors Association of San Diego, and I literally drove through the smoke and the fire to Los Angeles, and I met this brother, him and a gentleman by the name of Al Williams, and they were in the process of forming a construction association because, as you all know, that was the most costly civil disobedience in the history of this country. And it raises the question once again as to what is the engines of our economy and what can we do to become more involved in the segments of the economy that gives us the greatest opportunity for participation. Construction has always been one of those. And one of the things I'd like to discuss when Drexel does get on the line is where we are here in 2017 as it relates to the construction industry and our participation rate and what we can do to improve the prospects of using that gateway to the middle class for the benefit of African Americans. Drexel, welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Hey, glad to be here, Bobby.
So basically I told him a little bit about how I met you back in 1992 in the offices of Recycling Black Dollars after all hell broke loose here in L.A. And if you would, please tell us, what is the Young Black Contractors Association and what's your mission now as it appeared to be back all those many years ago, 25 years, matter of fact?
Well, I hope it appears to be the same as it was in the onset. We're a nonprofit 501c3 organization that advocates for small, local, disadvantaged black businesses, more in particularly, but we do look out for other small businesses and minority businesses as well. Our job is to level the playing floor in the construction industry with regard to whatever ethnicity or whatever funding source there is that we have to deal with to make it happen. And it has not been easy. And I'll say again, the biggest part of what I think the problem is the lack of legislation and too much rhetoric. A whole lot of rhetoric without legislation means absolutely nothing. And that's what we've gotten to be accepted to and hear a lot of. And we have to point the finger at ourselves to a certain extent because we sat back and allowed this to happen. I wish there were more organizations willing to fight for what they say they believe in. And black people as a whole just got to stand up and be accounted for and be represented in this industry. And we're just not doing that anymore.
So what are some of the projects that are high profile, that lack the participation rate that you and I feel is warranted by our population in the greater Los Angeles area, for example?
Well, you know, we can go back on some projects that took place that did not meet the goal. Most of the projects around L.A., greater Los Angeles area, they never meet their goal or the provisions or the requirements that they say are set for this project. And the Me Too Negro, or the Out Negro Me, I guess I should say, is a scenario where when you get these handkerchief head Negro leadership of people to stand out front and say the things that they say and do the things that they do, they're going to forever stop black people from reaching the plateau of that goal. And when you look at the Jordan Downs project, for instance, $1 billion project, you look at the Ram Stadium there, multi-billion-dollar project. You got stuff at LAX, multi-billion. You got stuff in the Port of Long Beach, multi-billion. These are public dollars. And for the most part, we are not getting our share, but we have black people at the gate. So the gatekeeper issue is real. They have them there. They're standing there tall, and they will keep you out, much like they did in the slave days when the house Negro would always control what the field Negro could or couldn't do and would go and tell on her. And that was the other thing. So we're up against it, man, and the only way it's going to happen for us to get to be mainstream part of what we say we are lacking on in terms of construction is that we have to have more of a base of people willing to stand up and die for what they believe in. And we don't have that anymore. People talk all the time about the civil rights and the civil rights and the civil rights. The civil rights is as dead as the man that died yesterday. Ain't nobody doing a damn thing to push nothing for nobody black on no civil rights, on no real front. People talk about it and laugh about it, and then you got these Me Too organizations that come around and pop up. You got so many nonprofits popping up right now that don't know four hogs got four asses when it comes to construction. But they're right in the middle of it, and then they want to tell you about their minister and their preacher and their politicians and what they're doing. There's enough people of color in Los Angeles to stop what we're going through in terms of not being at the table. Bobby, we created an avenue back on the Alameda corridor, on the mid-corridor, with a company by the name of Tudor Saliba at the time. They're now called Tudor Perini, of which we just got a large trucking contract with them that's going to be starting in February on the Purple Line. But this gentleman gave us the creativity and the timeline to go back to our communities and find people that wanted to work and train them on the job. I was speaking with Commissioner Davis about this the other day, and he says we need more of that. But you don't have that anymore, because if those people that worked on the Alameda corridor for us, if they had gone through a training program to be trained, by the time they were properly trained, the job would have been over with. So I really take my hat off to Ron Tudor, man. He really opened the door for us and gave us a chance to really perform and be a main part of a main piece of some of that real money that came through. And there's some guys right now that started their own businesses from that. Some of them are gone back to jail, but a lot of them are real prosperous in getting that opportunity.
Well, let's speak about that for a minute, so that the people that eventually watch this show understand the magnitude of the construction industry's impact on the quality of people's lives. Could you cite a few examples of where you saw people who literally had never worked for more than minimum wage, if at all, their entire life?
Absolutely. Most of the people, and I think I've shown you the brochure before, most of the people that work for me had never had a real job before. And if we didn't do it the way we did it, they still wouldn't have had that job. And I'll just say, in saying this, there was some real G's out there working for us, man. I mean, those guys were for real. And if you look at the list right now, of which I'm on the radio, I can't show it to anybody, but I just want to say the one guy that really helped me a whole lot with the community was Dub C. How he reached back and got me some of the homeboys that I grew up with over in 111, and we got out there and we put those guys to work. And I'm telling you, man, those guys showed skill. They showed skill. Some of them are still working with Ice Cube right now. I'm trying to get them back to come back with me. So I really take my hat off to those guys, out of all the guys that were out there.
So how important has mentorship been to you? And I'm speaking principally of the relationships you formed since I first met you with Abdul Rahim Hamid, who is now president of the National Black Contractors Association. Back then it was the Black Contractors Association of San Diego. And
Right.
Wendell Stimley, who is the president of the National Association of Minority Contractors. How important was their mentorship to your development?
Well, I guess we kind of mentored each other, because everybody that I would meet over the years, they would have a system, whereas they systematically did certain things. And it's like a guy told me one time about his father. He said his father told him, "Hey, I taught you everything that you know." He said, "Well, yeah, Dad, you did teach me everything I know, but I learned some things from other people too." So just like I mentored them, they mentored me. Because my thing is just to get the legislation in place and jam. And Hamid's very, very educated and sophisticated about it. So is Wendell. And I told him, that's fine, we got to have that, but we got to stand on the square like we're supposed to and stand up like men to get the respect that we deserve. So it was very important, Bobby. They showed me a lot of things about the classroom, and I think I showed them a few things about out in the field and how things need to go.
So what are some of the other projects that are going on in and around Los Angeles that you have put your eyes on as opportunities for greater inclusion for black contractors?
Well, the one project that I've looked at a whole lot here of late is the Daniel Freeman Hospital is about to be demoed right now, and it's going to be built back. I don't know exactly what they're building back just yet, but we're scheduled to play a main part and the infrastructure and putting it back together, as well as the retail portion of Jordan Downs. I'm working with the fastest or the largest Hispanic real estate developer in the country that's known for going into the disadvantaged areas and building the project and doing real well with the local people at hand. He and I work real good together. A company by the name of Prime Store. We met him through Mayor Jim Deere over in Carson, over on Albertoni, where I have all that stuff over there now, Fatburger and all. We did a lot of the earthwork over there when the recession hit, and without that project, we might have gone under at that time. But there are a lot of projects around town. I just want to speak more in general about the agencies. LAUSD, LACCD, Compton Unified, Inglewood Unified. These people have tons and tons of work, and they just don't have the right stuff in place to put black people to work. And there is not enough black people complaining about not working. There are so many people comfortable at the level we sit right now, and we're constantly grinding. I just want to mention, if we can, a little bit about the march that we're going to have within 30 days. We're marching from Florence and Prairie all the way to Century and Prairie, past the Daniel Freeman Hospital, all the way to Hollywood Park and the Ram Stadium. We're going to be marching there, and we're going to picket out there for several days until they put some color into that job.
Which
Real
job?
Color.
Which job are you speaking of?
This is the NFL Stadium project.
Oh, the new Ram Stadium. Okay.
The new Ram Stadium, absolutely. And with the way they're handling things right now, I guess I should say, the way they're mishandling things right now, it's not a direct reflection on the mayor of Inglewood or the city council people of Inglewood. It's the owners and the contractors at hand, because they've gotten past that threshold of getting the project going right now. Once they get that building permit, all that stuff changes, because they are allowed to use and utilize, or we tried and couldn't find anyone. Well, anybody knows me, know I ain't hard to find. So the issues the issues that they keep us out on is not right. And I was just at a picnic on Saturday. I was at the Morningside High School alumni picnic over in Centinela Park, and I'm asking these brothers and sisters to stand up and march with us, man. I want to reach out to one gentleman more particularly. I think he's going to be doing a lot of security at the Ram Stadium. Brother Barry Walker, give me a call, Barry. Give me a call.
So let me ask this question. You mentioned some of the challenges and problems associated with contracting for black folks here in Los Angeles. Is it any different in other parts of the country? If so, give me some examples.
Well, I can't really get that deep on it, but I'll tell you it's worse. See, when you don't have the advocating or the person grinding on the ground for his people, everything is just going to go along to get along with however the situation may be or become. And that's what we have in most cities. There ain't nobody out there doing a Drexel or a YBCA. Everybody is comfortable, or I guess I don't want to say the word afraid, but everybody is comfortable. So you have the same scenarios, the same contractors that build in L.A., they build all across the country, and they run the same game. That's what happened. That's what happened at Jordan Downs when I first got involved. I found out, I did my due diligence, and I found out how this developer, Bridge Housing, I found out how they came from Chicago and what they did to the people of Cabrini
Green.
Yeah. I found out what they did to J.J.'s and Evans' spot and Robert Taylor Homes. I said, oh, my God, this has got to stop. So they came here with the same business, and they were totally out of compliance. As we worked on the job at Jordan Downs, not one contractor was in compliance, and they're paying 4 or 5 Negro handkerchief figureheads to stand around and say, we're monitoring the project. What are you monitoring? You ain't monitoring nothing. You're just getting a paycheck to go along to get along. You ain't doing nothing effective to help these people in Jordan Downs get nothing. And that's the problem right there.
So
some of the old civil rights leaders, they've led, now follow. Because these young people don't know how it is to come from the cotton fields of Mississippi and work hard, or Alabama and work hard. All they know is what their parents can tell them and what they know and what they see on the street. But there is nobody out there doing it like it needs to be done, like it was done years ago.
Okay, let me ask you this question. How do we market working with your hands to a generation? This is actually the second generation of people that we have produced that have no direct relationship with manual labor. How do we take the stigma off of working with your hands as a gateway to the middle class, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, everybody's not going to be a doctor or a lawyer. These people have got to understand that working with your hands can provide you a great living and a great skill set that no one can take away from you. You know, your word and your skill set is the only things that people can't take away from you. So you need that. I believe training is big. I don't believe so much in the vocational side of it as I do as on-the-job training, because I think you kind of lose a little bit of time and you don't get paid as well. I do believe in the unions playing a part in the things that they do. A lot of people are against the unions. I'm pro-union. I've been pro-union a long time. I've gotten out and gotten back in, but with L.A. being unionized to the degree that it is, it would behoove the young person to try to get in a training program. I think someone has something going up at L.A. Southwest College on the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
These people, the young people, need to look into that,
mm-hmm.
because you can make $60,000 a year right now. You can make $70,000 a year right now with being a cement mason, being an operating engineer. Operating engineer, you can make $100,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
HVAC, all these trades pay right now,
mm-hmm.
and the benefit package are just astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
The benefit and the health and welfare is just astronomical. It can really take care of a family really well.
So the other night when you had one of your monthly mixers, I guess it was the best way to describe it, I invited an associate of mine by the name of Wayne Fishback to attend that meeting. And even before then, you and he had actually met on a couple of occasions. How important is it to reach out to people outside of your race to break this cycle of exclusion in the construction industry?
Well, again, let's just cut through the chase. White people got all the contracts, okay? So when you got someone working with you or trying to work with you, that gets you through the door, in my opinion, a little bit more gracefully or a little bit better than not. And I think right now, to utilize the people that you meet that have some sort of sand, if you will, like Wayne does, and the creativity of what he does for a living, I mean, very, very good architecturally, and then putting back to the agriculture side is just outstanding. I think right now, with the way Wayne got certain things set up that he's working on, Mr. Fishback, I think we can take and train a good dozen or two people over a year's time and running heavy equipment and driving dump trucks and just being a good hand.
Mm-hmm. So, as we begin to wrap up the show for tonight, man, what are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future, or the present and the future, as it relates to contracting opportunities?
Well, I'm always optimistic because ain't nothing happening until we put some pressure behind it. I told a lady the other day to pick up a glass on the table. She said, "Why do you want me to pick it up?" I said, "Because you're asking me question after question after damn question." I said, "Pick that glass up on that table." I said, "Now you pick that glass up on that table and tell me that you can pick this glass up without tightening your hands around that glass." You have to apply some means of educated pressure and support to get your agenda heard and felt out here with these people. And over the years, that's what we've been able to do, and it hasn't always been pretty. But I want to tell you, the big corporations, they don't like to be pushed, and people that don't want to spend money with black folks don't like to be pushed. But if they're spending our tax dollars, we have a right to be antagonistic about not working, and pessimistic and optimistic and everything else. The whole point of it is it needs to be more people on the front line standing up for what's right, because the civil rights they keep talking about, the civil rights is dead.
Well, when you put it like that, I can't do nothing but schedule a funeral.
Well, I'm saying if that's what you're going, in other words, I got a brother that worked for the federal government for 35 years, and he told me about 10 years ago, "Drexel, do you really think the federal government is going to make sure you're treated fairly? It's not their job to make sure you're treated fairly. It's their job to do what they do, like they do, when they do." And you take young people. I talk about young people all the time, but you take black people. We always talking bad about the police and the this and that and this and that. And I understand how people feel about the police. But now, when you look at, like people look at the NAACP, the NAACP had a certain amount of people, a certain kind of people that founded them. What I do when I look at a scenario, I look at the origin of the finding and funding source. When you look at the finding of the police department, where at one point black people were slaves, then black people couldn't arrest white folks, the police department, one of their original jobs was to catch and apprehend runaway slaves. So the police ain't going to never get away 100% of what they were founded on. The NAACP. Jewish people going to always have a voice with the NAACP simply because they were at the table during the founding period. They're going to always have a say in that. So when I look at the situations that I try to attack, I look at the origin, I look at the founding source and the funding source. And I come out with a better understanding and a better percentage of positiveness than just standing around hollering about the issues. There's just too many black people that want to have rhetoric and no action, man. You got to have action.
Well,
you got to have action.
Jackson, we're gonna say amen to that. And I'm going to have you in studio in a few weeks because we are, as you already know, actively working on being able to showcase some of the effective relationships that we have been able to form that give us a bridge to cross.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm excited about that.
I just want to say this while I'm here tonight, Bobby. I know you got to hang up. Oh, we are in Minnesota next month. We are in Minnesota next month. Minnesota for the Target scenario. Target stores, they had never had a black contractor build from the ground up until they hired us. And when they hired us, we got our contractors in, and they received a 25-year contract. Now, Target is bragging about them around town and don't want to pay their bills to our organization. So we got a big rally going up there as well that we'll be putting forth out in the news in about a week.
Okay, well, I'll let my guest from earlier on the show know that because he's a real pillar of the community and goes all the way back. I mean, he's got deep roots in Minneapolis, so I'll put you in touch with him. And what we'll do, man, is continue along this journey, man, and it's been a fascinating experience knowing you for over 25 years, brother. Here we are still picking them up and putting them down, man. And I want to thank you for checking in to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner. And I'm going to stay on top of your program. And any way I can support it, you know that I will. And let's just keep putting in this work, man.
Likewise, brother. Drexel Johnson by way of L.A. out of Bolton, Mississippi. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you so much, man. All right. As we begin to, put a cap on this evening's show, I opened up the phone lines because I hadn't done that yet. And it's just like anything else, man. You find a way to realize that the first time is not always indicative of whether or not people have opinions, it's whether or not they have a connection to the subject matter, or if they have the comfort level in order to speak their mind. Either way, I will do this again, and as we build a platform here at Morris Media Studios, it's imperative that people understand that it's important to support what Portis does, and if you can't contribute anything directly to the studio, make sure that you make people aware of what's happening here at Morris Media Studios. Also, in the coming weeks, some exciting things are happening I'll be able to share with you as it relates to models of possibility and best practice. And as I close tonight, I'd like to say all the best to a brother by the name of Greg Campbell, who's been supportive of the show, the Mentor brothers, Dexter and Fred Mentor. I don't even want to get into and start naming people because I'll eventually leave somebody out. But I'm not going anywhere. I believe in the studio. It has afforded me an opportunity to talk about things that I know are important to the people who listen to this show. And I'm not going to give up on the fact that it's going to make a difference at some point, because we'll continue to delve into the subject matters that deal with your day-to-day life. And as I told somebody a long time ago, small strokes will fell a big oak. You just got to keep on cutting. So thank you for listening to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play. And we're about to get out of here. And until the next time, peace and blessings to you.